In NASCAR, disaster usually happens on the track. However, just after Dale Earnhardt Jr. took the checkered flag for the 2000 Winston All Star Race, disaster struck right outside of Charlotte Motor Speedway. An 80-foot section of a pedestrian bridge that stood 15 feet above US Highway 29 suddenly collapsed after two loud cracks. Thousands of racing fans were on the bridge headed from the track to the parking lot. A clean break in the middle caused two sides of the bridge to fall, creating a funnel, causing fans to slide down and trample over each other. The result was over 100 injured race fans. What caused the bridge to collapse? Who was to blame? What was the fallout of the accident? Today, we are diving deep into this accident to answer these questions and more. Of course, we have a conspiracy about this, so make sure you watch this video to the end. Although it happened just 2 decades ago, this story has been largely forgotten and ignored. This is the history and fallout of the Charlotte Motor Speedway bridge collapse in 2000. The bridge was built in September 1995, just under 5 years before the incident. Its purpose was simple: to better facilitate pedestrian traffic to and from the racetrack. US Highway 29 ran right beside the track, and a major parking lot was on the other side of the highway, away from the racetrack. The bridge allowed race fans to avoid walking on the highway, making it safer for everyone and traffic to flow smoothly. Dale Earnhardt Jr. took the checkered flag, and less than 3 minutes later, the pedestrian bridge collapsed. Some sources say that it collapsed as he took the checkered flag, but it may not have been exactly when he took the flag. There was an initial loud crack that came from the bridge, then moments later, another loud crack was heard all around. It was then that the bridge collapsed. According to a race fan who was nearby, it felt like a literal earthquake. It was an amazing sight. Everyone disappeared, said a spectator who was treated for minor injuries. There was a mass of people, and then they were all gone. For a split second, I was thinking I was going to die, and then I realized I was going to live. Screams of hundreds of fans filled the air as people slid down the embankment. It must have been a horrible scene. People did not know what to do or what the extent of the injuries were. All of a sudden, the bottom fell out from everybody, said Roger Dunham, a spectator who had just started to cross the bridge. Tina Condrey stated everybody just started sliding down it like it was a sliding board, and they all ended on top of each other. Everybody then just started running everywhere. Some of the people looked like they were hurt real bad. Medical professionals quickly flooded the scene. However, initially there were nowhere near enough of them. Race fans stormed to the highway to assist the professionals and tend to the injured. 107 people were treated in various hospitals as a result of the incident. Although the bridge was over top of a major highway, there were luckily no cars on it. Traffic was being held, and that may be the luckiest thing about this whole event. The track had a disaster just the previous year, with 3 spectators losing their life in an IndyCar incident. I can only imagine that the track staff thought this would end the same way. Humpy Wheeler, Charlotte's track president at the time, was in the control tower when Dale Earnhardt Jr. crossed the finish line. Just 3 minutes later, he received word that the bridge collapsed. Oh my god, we killed 50 people. I knew anyone under the bridge, they were dead. Fortunately, no one was under the bridge. Unfortunately, some people would have to live with the consequences of their injuries for the rest of their lives, but we will get into a couple specific cases later on. Professionals examined the other pedestrian bridge up the highway, but found no signs of cracks or corrosion. This was an isolated incident. So, what caused the bridge to collapse in the first place? I mean, it was constructed less than 5 years before the incident. There had to be a major problem. Well, investigations in the following days revealed that there was a major issue with the concrete. The investigation was led by Charles Manning, a retired civil engineering professor at NC State. The construction company, Tyndall Corporation, used an additive during construction to make the concrete filler at the bridge's center dry faster. This additive included calcium chloride. Steel cables were also installed at the bridge to essentially strengthen the bridge and take some of the load off of the concrete. Since they took some of the load, it created tension on the cables. When these cables take some of the load, they expand and holes are created in them. These holes are filled by grout, which is basically cement, sand, and water. Now, there was a high concentration of calcium chloride found in the grout that rusted parts of the cables. The steel cables swelled when they corroded, cracking the concrete around them in the process. So basically, just to recap, the additive put in the concrete contained calcium chloride, which made its way to the steel cables, which corroded them and made them swell, cracking the concrete around them. Upon further investigation, Don Idle, a bridge inspector for the state, said the day after the incident that he noticed cracks in other spans of the collapsed bridge. He described them as 1/16 inch to 1 inch thick and about 3 to 4 feet long. So this wasn't an isolated problem, it was happening all over the bridge. So now we know what caused the bridge to collapse, but now to the real fun, the blame game. Who was at fault for the incident? So the first suspect is obviously the construction company, Tyndall Corporation. I mean, they built the thing and added the additive that led to the collapse. However, the next suspect was actually Anti-Hydro International Incorporated, who sold Tyndall the additive. An attorney said Anti-Hydro International Incorporated was to blame for not revealing on its label that it contained calcium chloride. Further, Tyndall's attorney claimed that the company did not know the additive it mixed with the grout to speed up the drying on the day the bridge had to be delivered contained calcium chloride. In response, Anti-Hydro's attorney said the directions on the grout container were clear. The mixing instructions said, "Do not add anything but potable water." Anti-Hydro is not water. So that's a lot of blame going on. We're just going to pause there for a second. Most of this blaming happened during one of the biggest trials following the incident, which involved a Virginia couple, Cindy and Marty Taylor. The Taylors both suffered head and orthopedic injuries, as well as memory loss after the walkway collapse. Their attorney said, despite several surgeries each, neither will live a normal life again. As a result of the case, the couple was awarded $4 million. In the end, a portion of this was paid by Tyndall, and a portion of this was paid by the Speedway. Wait, the Speedway? What did they do? Well, David Allen, the Speedway's attorney, argued that Tyndall was ultimately responsible for the bridge's construction. Quote, "We didn't tell them how to make it, we didn't tell them what to do. We're in the racetrack business, not the concrete business." However, this is a flawed argument as the racetrack broke their contract with the State Department of Transportation by not completing appropriate inspections. The bridge was only inspected one time, directly following construction. As the steel cables had obviously not corroded yet, it was all good to go. However, the contract that they signed stated it needs to be inspected every couple of years, but those inspections never happened. Now this was a big mistake by the Speedway because only public bridges were required by law to be inspected, not private ones. So, according to some sources, if they didn't sign this contract, they would have had no liability at all. Now I can't confirm whether this was an actual issue or not, but after reading some of the arguments from Tyndall, they referred to getting the job done by the deadline. They even mentioned using the additive on the day the bridge had to be delivered. It could have been possible that the company was either rushed by the Speedway or was just a little bit behind on the construction process. If they were rushed by the Speedway, it probably would have been a big argument from Tyndall, so I do not personally believe this was the case. I believe it may have been the latter, that the company was behind in the construction process, so they added the additive to meet the deadline. The timeline sort of lines up, as the bridge was finished in September of 1995, and there was a race weekend at Charlotte at the beginning of October. Of course, the company would not admit to any shortcutting in court, so this is just all speculation. Most of the court case following the bridge collapse were settled outside of court by 2006. There is up to 50 different cases, most of which were not public. So although we don't know the results of these, I would imagine it would be Tyndall and the Speedway sharing liability, much like the Virginia couple case. However, there is just one conspiracy in this whole thing, and it mainly revolves around one man, Dick Brenner. This man became one of the faces of the incident because he was among the most injured. It crushed his legs and shattered his pelvis. Dick unfortunately passed away in 2015, but many suspect he passed away as a result of his injuries. There are also conspiracies, especially on Reddit, a very reliable source, that other people succumbed to injuries, but I can't find anything other than pure speculation. Some believe that NASCAR is trying to cover this up or other details in the situation to not hurt their public image, but who knows. Overall, the Charlotte Motor Speedway bridge collapse was a horrific event that injured over 100 race fans, and many people had to live with their injuries and trauma for the rest of their lives. There was a lot of speculation when it comes to the extent of the injuries and the details around it, and it seems like we're missing something or something's just super off about the whole ordeal. Hopefully, nothing like this will ever happen again. Anyways guys, that's it for this video. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.